Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lakshi, and I'm a final year PhD candidate. I'm going to present some findings from one of my PhD studies today, where we looked at community engagement in event planning and operations. So, before we go ahead with understanding the study and the findings, I want to introduce you to what community engagement means. So it's a process where public concerns, needs and values are incorporated into governmental and corporate decision making. It provides a platform for everybody to come together to make decisions collectively that brings value to everyone. So why is this important in an event setting? Engagement creates transparency and a common understanding between everyone involved, which is very important for event organizers in gaining event support because it incorporates all the values and the needs and interests of the community that the event's going to be at. So, with this in mind, we did the study to understand the key ingredients of community engagement. So what we wanted to have a look at is the motivations, what facilitators and barriers to community engagement are there, and also how are event authorities creating opportunities for the locals to engage. So we use the social exchange theory, which conceptualizes engagement as reciprocity between two parties. So you've got event authorities and the local communities who weigh up their inputs and outputs before going into a transaction. And only if the outputs outweigh the inputs, they'll go into the actual transaction. We also use the MOA model, which connects your antecedents of engagement, so the means such as the motivation, opportunity, and ability, and connect them with your outcomes of engagement, so your different engagement and participation levels. So how we did the research is we conducted semi-structured interviews in Australia. We used both online and telephone interviews. We talked to event authorities all over Australia and used data saturation as our sampling frame and used in vivo to do both deductive and inductive coding. So I interviewed event organisers of grassroots events, major events all around Australia, and also local council council representatives, and all community engagement leaders in those councils. To analyse the data, I used in vivo. We reached saturation at 25, but we did 2 more interviews to make sure that no new themes were coming, which led to 22 sub-themes and 6 main themes from the analysis. So, moving on to the findings, I'm not going to go through the whole findings, but what I basically want to highlight in here is event authorities, all engagement decisions are underpinned by their motivation. So the motivations decide how they assess their abilities to engage and also how they create engagement opportunities. So in terms of motivation, we identified 2, which is egoistic motivation, so authorities engaging the community for their own benefits, for things like event support, resource fulfillment, so asking for volunteers from the community, and also to access the local knowledge in the hosting destination. The other motivation is collective altruism, where authorities engage the communities for the community's welfare and the community development. So things like to co-create events, to distribute impacts fairly among all the members, and also to develop local skills. All these motivations actually leads to assessing their engagement abilities. What we found is it's very important to understand both yours or the authorities' abilities plus the engaging communities. When it comes to the community, they're talking about things like the community's event awareness and the knowledge about how to actually engage in the event operations. So the 2 prominent engagement opportunities authorities create, surveys and consultative meetings, they how they are implemented, when they're implemented, and the frequency all depends on the motivation of engagement. And then moving on to the theoretical contributions, excuse me, we conceptualize engagement in planning as a reciprocal social exchange between the event organizers and the engaging communities. And also from the findings, we proposed a conceptual model which includes both the social exchange and the motivation opportunity ability model that can be actually developed into a practical community engagement model. And then what these findings mean to the event organizers or event authorities is we've highlighted the antecedents of community engagement, including the barriers and the facilitators, but most importantly, the importance of balancing both egoistic and altruistic motivations in the social exchange process. So if you're planning on going into that reciprocal exchange, it's important you actually take into consideration both motives. Some of the limitations, the study was only conducted in Australia, and because the sample wasn't very representative due to COVID implications, there are some power differences and imbalances among the sample, and the study only considered one perspective, so only the event authorities. So what this means is we've gone out with a survey into the community to understand their perspective on engagement, and we want to test the conceptual model we've proposed using a qualitative study to actually establish this relationship between the variables. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.